All right, so next slide. So fruits and roots, we obviously did the same, like we have ginger, and then we started out lockdown with lemons, but lost those quickly because they have to be imported. So we now make a ginger lime beer. So just ginger, lime, raw sugar, yeast, and water. And I mix a few different levels of sweeter and lower alcohol and drier and higher alcohol. And that thing, I can't produce enough of it fast enough. People love it. So, and there's also a native ginger, native to Rwanda, that supposedly has a more lemony base to its root itself. So we're going to be also trying to make a biodiversity beer and really working on local plants that you literally couldn't get anywhere else. So we're trying out, and on the bottom left we have, of course I tried the pineapple beer. Who didn't? But also apples we can't get, so that was one load that we tried, and then we moved to a pineapple passion fruit beer. And so it's literally just straight fruit, and then we stop it, we cool it at a certain point. And so that one is more of a breakfast beer. It's kind of like a beer mimosa. And it's a love-hate. People either sip it and say, don't ever ask me to try this again, or they are like, where can I keep getting this? And so yeah, so I've been learning about temperatures and fermentation, and I think like Megan and several people here have been getting lots of questions from me as I test. So my lockdown equipment. Literally mop buckets. We eventually, when I got to leave the house after a few months, I went and got some glass containers. There were like 3 of them literally in the country, and I bought them. And so these were our trials of ginger and the different versions of pineapple cider, pineapple passion fruit. So yeah, note to self, mop buckets equals equals infection for sure. Don't use mop buckets. And then we tried everything. I didn't even have airlocks, so we did saran wrap with cheesecloth over the pinholes to keep any kind of flies and stuff out. So it was just trials and lessons to try to figure out. I did bring some of the ginger beer and some of the pineapple passion fruit that are a result of iterations of these recipes for a trial at some point. So then, meanwhile, while this was all happening, we had ordered equipment from Nairobi for our pilot. So it was in Nairobi, here it all is. Our first driver got COVID, so couldn't come. But then the second driver made it. So next one. This is to get to Rwanda from Nairobi requires going through Uganda and into Rwanda. He took photos of his whole journey, and then at the time, you can see there was an 82-kilometer backup of cargo vessels coming into Rwanda. So they waited a few days in line, and then entering Rwanda, there's complete sanitation, and then they actually, the original driver in this car and the truck, even though they were sanitized, had to offload to a Rwandan truck and Rwandan driver, and then that's what came and got delivered to us. So we did get our pilot equipment in the end of July. So what else did this teach us? Really focusing on what can we get in Rwanda, what would we otherwise need to import and can't do because of lockdown, or just because of taxation, because of many different reasons. One thing, glass requires sand. So all the glasses you're holding came either from an ocean or a river that has sand. Rwanda has no sand, it's all clay. So we literally don't have a way to make glass in the country. So every ounce of glass, every bottle, every cup has to be imported. But what do we have? We have lots of clay. So how can we start to look at clay growlers, clay cups even for our brew pub? Because there's lots of artisans that make clay products. And then going on to the next slide. And then how do we take this the next step? We're going in flora. So if you see right now, they still use the small clay bowls for different brewing. And so I've been talking to different people around the world in brewing about this. Clay, historically was used for brewing. So in a country that has so much of it, is it actually viable to make giant amphora and to be able to ferment in them? So that will be a trial that we'll try. So questions are we going to have, because this is our next step. So we're going to try.
That's an answer I was looking for to a question that I needed to fill out.
There we go. Ask and you shall, or don't ask and you shall receive. So I think we're going to look into Amphora and starting to figure out what else can we do that's completely locally sourced and also has cultural history, or not even history, cultural context right now of people still brew in clay in the villages. And then next slide. So I just want to say thank you. This was International Women's Collab Day right before lockdown last March. And then if we go to the next slide. In case you want to get in touch with me or follow Kweza, there are our QR codes. Thank you all, and please give me advice, ideas, etc. as you go along, because we're just starting out, as you see, and trying to make the very first craft brewery in Rwanda. So there's not somebody I can just turn to. There's not a brew shop I can stop by. And so I lean on you all to help us get started. And hopefully in the future I'll be able to host an Africa brew. Any questions? Anything else you need?
I like it. Before you end, you're going to ask everybody to put on your mask so I can just take a photo of everybody. Doing social media as well, so we don't want to piss off anybody that's a foreign. Sorry, everybody. Don't drink my beer.
Drink my beer with Oscar.
I need a hole with a straw. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you, Jessi. Woohoo! Moving swiftly along, we're going to hop into the next session straight away.